So here's the question for you, though, is what are your organizational challenges? I'm assuming you're here because something in the title or the write-up somehow resonated. Somehow it tickled something for you, and you thought, there's something going on. Maybe I can learn something here. So I think you should get together with someone that you don't work with. If you're looking at me, you're missing the instructions on the slide. Get together with someone you don't work with and talk about organizational challenges you face with regard to the structure, the organization itself, who people report to, how the teams are organized, whatever it is. There were supposed to be pads, tablets, not like iPads, volunteers. Are they? Good. Okay, good. So there's paper and pens on every table. So get with a partner and spend a few minutes and just talk about what are the challenges you face in your organization. We'll make this about, 3 minutes. So here's what's funny. So he just asked me, what age do I teach? I did a session at a PMI chapter one time, and I used this technique, which obviously many of you know, which is I raise my hand, you see me, you raise your hand, stop talking, and somebody wrote in the feedback, and he treated us like children. No, I treated you like Agilists. It might be the same thing, I'm not sure. So, all right, I would love to hear a little bit of sharing. Anybody want to share a little bit? We don't have an extra microphone, or we do? You do? What would I do without Evan? Especially after that brilliant introduction, right? Anybody want to share, please? Pretty please? Little of your discussion? Thank you, right here. He's got the mic.
So we're going into the end of our second year from an IT Agile transformation. And similar to, I think, what I've seen at some other companies, part of it is the culture, leadership buy-in, and then how do you structure the teams? And do you have a centralized group of Scrum Masters or decentral?
Good.
And so we've had a centralized, but I think we're starting to go decentral. And it's probably a little early, but so that's some of
It's
what
only
we're
been
going
2 years. Yeah, okay. Anyone else? So she's so ready. She's so ready. Hurry, Evan, hurry!
Okay, so we work for Match, and we're going through an Agile transformation.
Match?
The Match group.
Yeah.
So Match.com and
Yeah.
all of those things.
Yeah.
All those things. So we're going through our Agile transformation, and so we are going over the hurdles of senior leadership sponsorship. What does the organization look like now that it's, an Agile organization? And so things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very top down. We're trying to do it grassroots instead of going, very,
Sort of from the
broad
bottom up.
and
Yeah.
narrow. We're now trying to go, deep and narrow with it so that we can go broad.
When you go deep and broad, the microphone moves away from your mouth, right?
It does. So I talk with my hands too. I also drove us, and at one point I had no hands on the steering wheel. So it's a problem.
Good.
Yeah, so microphone and steering wheel.
Yeah. Okay, so some big organizational issues there. I want to talk about a particular kind of issue. Are you leaving, Chris? Okay. No, we haven't gotten to the touchy-feely part yet. Okay, good. So I want to talk about a particular kind of challenge that I've seen that I'm trying to address when I work with organizations. You know my name, a little bit about me. I've been doing Agile stuff and software stuff for a very long time. I realized I was doing Agile stuff before there was an Agile, not because I'm so brilliant, although I am, but because it just seemed natural and made sense to me. Short iterations, working with the customer, and so forth. So I've been thinking about all this stuff for a long time. In the last 7-8 years, a lot of focus on enterprise-level stuff, working with leaders and so forth. And I've discovered some challenges that seem to be fairly common. So I wanted to talk about Elwood. Meet Elwood. Say hi, Elwood. Hey, it worked. Okay. So Elwood reports to Ella. Oh, typical organization. He's got to report to someone, right? And then Ella reports to Norman. And Elwood is a software developer. Now, here's the challenge that Elwood has, is he likes writing code. He doesn't want to deal with the organizational issues. He doesn't want to deal with political stuff. He wants to write code. That's what he loves. And the problem is that Elwood is on a team that's supposedly an Agile team. And there's a mix of people on the team. There's developers and QA or testers. I don't know, some people object to one or the other. I'm not quite clear what the criteria are, so I included both. Because I get it, I respect them both equally. The only ones, I don't disrespect anybody, actually, not intentionally, although it does happen occasionally by lack of intent. Designers, database developers, so it's a kind of typical cross-functional Agile team in a software organization. Now, the developers, like Elwood, report to a development manager, a technical manager. And the testers, the QA people, report to a QA manager who happens to be named Ashish. And then the designers report, in this case there's one designer on the team, reports to a design manager named Flo. And finally the database developer reports to the database manager. So they're very, very silo-based management and leadership. Now, of course, each of these people report to somebody else. I mentioned that Ella reports to Norman, and so does Ashish. Flo reports to Ernie, and Armand reports to Rebecca. So it kind of looks like this, right? Typical kind of organization, but the thing is, we have these so-called Agile teams, these cross-functional, working together, committed to the same goals. I talk about shared cargo, and cargo stands for shared commitment, shared accountability, shared responsibility, shared goals, and shared ownership. So that's what the cargo stands for. It took me a while to come up with something I liked, because there's more. There's more letters I could use. So we got these teams, and we've said to them, we expect you to be committed to the goal of the sprint, the goal of the project, and to work together and to become high-performing, right? You guys all know the Bruce Tuckman model, forming, storming, norming, and performing. You maybe, I know, most of you never heard of Bruce Tuckman. He doesn't care. But he's the one who came up with that model. He studied a lot of groups, and what he found is that all groups go through those 4 stages. And every time you change them up, they'll go through at least the first 3. Because when he says performing, so there's the forming, coming together, storming, arguing, sharing opinion, sharing difference, norming, learning how to work together, and then performing, which is what most of us call high performing, right? So the goal in creating these teams is to enable them to become high performing, because you don't become high performing overnight. So we don't want to mess with the teams, okay? So we've created these teams, but of course, as I said, I'll go over on this side now. Can you handle that, Eric, if I come over here? All right, good. We got the database developers are reporting to Armand, and the designers are reporting to Flo, and the testers are reporting to Ashish, and the developers are reporting to Ella. But they're all on one team, together with shared cargo. Oh, so what typically happens? So here's what I'd like you to do. Thinking about being on or being involved in an Agile team, what are some of the challenges that occur? What you might call, I don't know, dysfunctions or organizational glitches or whatever you want to call them. What have you experienced? Department priorities versus Agile or Scrum team priorities. Kelly?
That everybody's expected to complete so much training.
Oh.
And they're also being told that they have to have 30 productive hours of code development.
Oh.
Plus attend meetings that they have to.
So they're supposed to have do a certain amount of training, learning, development, and they're supposed to spend at least 30 hours a week on the development stuff and all the ceremonies and meetings and so forth. Well, that's only like 60 hours a week. Okay, what else? Stacy.
So my challenge is parts of our organization are this team concept, and then we submit a database request that has a turnaround of 5 days.
Oh.
10 days.
Because you're dependent on somebody else out there. Good. Jared, did you want to say something?
So I think that people end up feeling like they are in office space where they're like, I've got 3 different managers, right? And
Yeah.
they just don't even know who to talk to about when they're having issues.
Yeah.
And so the managers aren't really able to fill the roles that they need to because they don't own protecting that team and helping that team and leading that team.
So they feel like they have multiple managers, and the managers feel like they're not quite sure how to help focus things. What role are you in, Jared? Yeah, he's a manager. Okay, good. Anyone else got? Yes, Michael.
Yeah, like tech writers who are cross-functionally located in all these teams, I've seen them feel disconnected from the other tech writers because they're not sitting with them, they're not able to share with them, and they feel disconnected from the people who share their interests. And
Okay.
so that makes them unhappy in what they're doing.
So Michael's example was tech writers who may be spread across the teams and feel like they don't get to collaborate with other tech writers and learn what's going on and so forth. Thank you. That one's I couldn't have set that one up any better if I'd tried. Okay, anyone else got anything they want to share?
We have different buy-in from different departments. So when we have a project team, we might have one manager that says, well, the sprint kickoff ceremony, that's important, but I don't really want him to spend time going to the stand-ups every day.
Yeah, so different levels of buy-in and different views of what Agile is. So I don't know about you guys, but I've referred to Fragile, which is of course the easily broken version. And then there's Quagile, which is the quasi-Agile, in which we adopt a little of this and a little of that, and then we say it's Agile. And I recently came up with Squagile, which is short for Squamous Agile, which is it's actually destructive and it keeps growing. So, all right. So, did you just catch up, Chris? Thank you. That was the intention. Okay. So, here's what I run into. Okay, so Elwood reports to Ella, and Ella says, you know, I need you to do something. So, sort of related to what some of you talked about, right? I need you to come help me with this. I know you're on a team over here, but you report to me. And I need some work done. And you're the only one who can do it for me. Now, what is Elwood going to say? Because she's his boss, right? He doesn't feel like he can say no. He doesn't feel good about saying yes. What's he going to say to his team who depend on him to do his job, to meet their velocity, to meet their commitments, their forecasts? And he says, but it's not in our sprint backlog. Because we've taught him, right? He's taken all the classes and we've educated him, and we got a Scrum Master, and we've got a product owner, and we've said all of your work comes to you through the sprint backlog. And you're not supposed to work on anything else. But now Ella comes along and says, Elwood, I need you to come do this for me. Reviews are coming up soon. You can say no if you want, Elwood, right? What is Elwood going to do? This is a dilemma we see over and over and over again because on the team, right, there's no one manager. And we have a Scrum Master, but the Scrum Master doesn't really have the authority, although we'd like them to have, right? They're the sheepdog. They protect the team. But when a manager comes along and says, I need this, the Scrum Master also is sometimes at their mercy. And I've seen this just way, way, way too many times. So we have Ella, and she's not the only one, right? Some of you work in organizations, and there's some people I know in the room who work in organizations where the people from sales or marketing are used to calling the developers and saying, I got a client, and if you can just get this feature done in the next week, we can make a sale. And because of the way the organization used to be, they are used to being responsive. This creates this confusion and ambiguity in the minds of the people who are doing the work. We've said we're doing Agile, right? And Agile is really about disambiguating this. Because the goal is to be on this cross-functional team and we have clear goals that we share that supposedly the organization's behind. What is your name? Sarah. So Sarah said, you know, they're having a problem they're trying to do it from the grassroots up because they're not clear that they have the right support from up here. But even organizations that have the support from up here run into this stuff. And this is what I've been calling crisscross chaos. Because I ran into this at another organization. It was the database manager who said, you know what? All of those other people report to the VP of development except the database developers, and they're mine. And I get to set their priorities, and I get to set their work, and I get to tell them when I want them to do something different, and I get to tell them how to work, even though they're on an Agile team, and we're embracing Agile, except for me. And I get to do things the way I want. All right, so let's see. There you go, instructions. Got it? Starts now. All right. Let's see what we got now. So I'd like to have each table share some of their conversation, each group, if you're not at a table. Would you guys mind starting? Share a little about what you talked about? Folks, please. Thank you. Overworking team members. Missed commitments and delayed deliveries. Nice.
A few other things, an us versus them mentality, depending on
Yeah, us versus them, which we're trying to get rid of, yeah.
stress.
Stress. All right, good. That was a really good list. Let's hear from somebody else. How about you guys?
So one, if other managers see what our mom is doing, they may also feel it's fine to go rogue on everybody.
So it sets a pattern. If other managers see what's happening, they feel like it's okay for them too, yeah.
Similarly, the performance and trust within the team will go down because they didn't deliver on what they agreed to at the beginning.
Performance and trust go down because they didn't deliver on their commitment, yeah.
And ultimately, in some cases, maybe nothing gets done and so no one's happy.
Because if it's too much of it, nothing gets done, no one's happy, yeah. Okay, let's go over to that side of the room. What group would like to share?
Sure. One of ours was sabotage, where we feel like they would think we're just pulling one person off for a little bit, but it would break up all the commitments and priorities. And
Yeah, sabotage, very nice, I like that word. Yeah, what was that? One is enough for you, okay. So much effort to stand all the way up. Yeah, okay. How about somebody in the middle? Anybody got anything else they want to share?
So one of the things we talked about is, we talked about the storming, performing. Well, you're always going to be holding them up from getting to their performing.
Yes, you're always going to be holding them up from getting through forming, storming, and norming to performing. Yeah, thank you, that's a good one.
We also had how is success measured?
How is success measured? Because you're screwing with their numbers. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, one of my colleagues said, don't swear, Doc. I can't promise. Okay, good. Anyone else want to share one?
Related to that, how are your managers measured? Because they've got people split across multiple teams.
Yeah, how are your managers measured? Because they have people split across multiple teams. Very nice. Thank you, Michael. Clementino? Multiple conflicting priorities between teams.
Excessive back and forth between tasks.
Excessive back and forth between tasks. So churn and thrash. Yep, yep.
And then down team of pride and morale.
Pride and morale in the team go down. Yep.
We also mentioned silent skill sets and this extra amount of work and shadow work and the loss of team identity.
Did you expect me to remember all of those? Siloed work. What was it? Shadowed what?
Shadow work or
Shadow work. Yeah, okay. So these extra things. Yep. And what was the last one?
and the last one was a loss of team identity.
Loss of team identity. Yes. So this is getting, where's Michael? Chris, it's getting into the touchy-feely stuff now. You catching up? Okay, good. So, yeah, this is the challenge I see, right? Is that if I'm that developer or that database developer or that designer and I keep getting pulled off, I start to feel like I'm not having a good time here because I can't ever contribute significantly to the success of my team if this keeps happening. And as these guys said, it becomes a pattern. Was that you guys? No, somebody said that, right? It becomes a pattern of behavior. I remember, it was you, right? Pattern of behavior, right? If one does it, then another one can do it, and now they're all doing it. And that's what I see happen in these organizations. Well, if he can get away with it, I can get away with it. It's okay. Yes, sir. It's Ted? Yeah.
Also what I see is the person that ends up being pulled off often ends up being one of the stars.
Ah.
They start thinking of themselves as running to the rescue of everyone.
Yeah, so it's the stars that get pulled off, and they run to the rescue of everyone else. Yeah, so in my facilitation patterns, that's the superhero, right? I swoop in and I save the day. That's right, and they start to believe that about themselves. So, but they don't finish anything. Yeah, okay, well, that would be me. No, I finished putting together this session. I did finish. I got that, yeah. So I tend to talk in utopian terms and then live in the real world. And what I mean by that is I say an Agile team succeeds or fails together. An Agile team succeeds or fails together, and I think you understand that, but to be clear, what I mean is I would go radical and say when you do reviews, if you do annual reviews, which I'm trying to get away from, if you do annual reviews, then a significant chunk of every individual's review should be based on how well their team did. I don't care if they were the star or the villain, because you can have a star on a team that sucks, and you can have a villain on a team that's hugely successful. I don't care, because for the team to succeed, they have to have made their contribution to the team succeeding as a team. In an Agile organization, that's what I'd like to see, is that people are evaluated based on how the team does. Well, as many of you have pointed out, therefore, and as Ted just pointed out, well, now I got someone who the manager is going to say, well, boy, this is the guy I can count on, right? This is the woman I know that if I need something done, I'll call on them and they'll get it done, to the detriment of the rest of the members of the team. So to adapt to that and to try and eliminate that dysfunction, yeah, you can go back to your original chairs if you like. Jared is a trendsetter. You might as well follow the trend. Do what you like. I'm okay, because as you see, I wander around. You might as well. So I came up with this matrix idea. So here's the way I think of it. I got an Agile team. And on the Agile team, I've got these different specialties, roles, functions, call them whatever you like. It's a cross-functional team. And they all have this thing that I'm referring to as shared cargo. And the ownership is really important to me, because once I hand them the goal, I have these what I call mantras about Agile, and one of them is give a reasonably intelligent group of people reasonably clear goals and the authority and responsibility and ownership to get it done, and they'll figure it out. Do this with 6-year-olds and say make up a game, and they will. Do it with a group of volunteers and say, here, you guys are responsible for this, like all these guys in the blue shirts, and they'll figure it out. Well, why not an Agile team, right? So we got an Agile team. They're learning how to work together effectively to be this cross-functional, self-organizing, wonderful team. And I propose that instead of having technical managers, managers who are expert in a particular role, development, QA, UX design, whatever it is, that the teams as a whole report to a manager whose job is what some would call an HR manager. Their responsibility is all the administration, the operation, the logistics, the PTO approvals, the training approvals, whatever it is. All the organizational stuff. They don't have to be experts in the technical domains. They don't have to be experts even in the product domain. I'm not saying it hurts. I'm not saying you should avoid someone because they understand what you build. What I am saying is they should be good managers. They should be focused on the skill, the talent, the joy of management. Now, I was a technical guy, and I looked at management and decided I want to do that. And as a result, I studied it, and I worked at it. But a lot of us get told, well, the next step up for you, what is your name? Oliver. Are you a developer by any chance? Yes. Oh, how lucky was that? So Oliver's a developer, and his boss says, you know, the next step up for you to move in your career here is to become a technical manager. Now, Oliver may never have thought about being a manager, may not want to be a manager, but now he's placed in the position of, if I want to get ahead, I got to be a manager. And there's way too many people who are in that position, and some of them turn into outstanding managers, and some of them will never be good managers. They just don't want to. They don't care. They just got pushed into that position. I propose that we have people who care about management, and they're professional managers. That's what one of my clients referred to them as, professional managers. They may have a technical background, they may not. I don't care, as long as they're good managers. Oh. So let's see. So this is my goal. Come up with 10 characteristics or responsibilities of what I've defined as a functional manager. And the way you do this is you stand up, call it out, and sit down. We have 1 minute. Is that what I said? Yes, 1 minute. Let me set my timer. Ready? Go. Good communicator, trustworthy. Loyal. Unbiased. Empathetic, passionate, smart. We need 3 more. Come on. We still got lots of time. 3 more. Good communicator. We got that one already. But it's okay. It was worth repeating. Yeah. Administratively competent. Ooh, good use of syllables. Okay. One more. Decisive. That was really decisive, Ted. Thank you. I like that. He did it and exemplified it all in one move. All right. I got them all. So we got good communicator, decisive, loyal, trustworthy. They're Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts. Okay, good. Yeah, but that's what we want in a manager, right? Now, granted, I set the context for you that they're not a deep technical manager, but realistically, I can get technical expertise elsewhere, right? Honestly, it may not be common, but I can find it. I can hire somebody who's technically competent. Harder is to find someone who's technically competent and a good manager, so let's stop trying. Let's get these really good functional managers and have most of the people on the team report to them. Now, there's no conflict because when it comes to my commitment on a day-to-day basis, I report to one person and only one person. And everybody on the team, except for one, reports to that one person. And I say everybody but one because I like to still see product owners report to a product-focused organization. It gives us the checks and balances we need to make sure we don't start navel-gazing. We don't start building cool technical things because they're cool technical things, but rather we maintain that focus on delivering value to our customers, users, organization. So now I've got everybody except the product owners reporting to a product organization. Now, I've seen it work as well where the Scrum Masters all report to the equivalent of a PMO. We'll call it an SMO, a Scrum Master organization. That works. My only concern is if there's any conflict there. But what we really want in both cases is the communication across the teams between the people in the role. And so to do that, I propose that we take this concept of communities of practice, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, and we implement it as an organizational part of our structure. So here's another chance for you to talk to each other. What is a community of practice? What's the purpose of it? What's the value of it? Why would I suggest this in this organization? Let's take a few minutes. Talk to anybody you like except me. I'm going to make it 3 minutes. Go ahead and have a conversation. It's funny, I can tell who are the people who are familiar with the technique and those who aren't, because the ones who aren't look up at me and just keep talking. It's like, oh, he's got his hand in the air. I don't know what's going on, but and the rest of you stop talking. Hi, Will. Thank you. Okay, a little sharing then, please. Some of the conversation you had. What are your thoughts about communities of practice or experience with them? Ted?
I did at a company was partnered up with a guy and he started running a coding dojo to teach fresh outs how to be senior programmers.
Fresh outs. Good, I like that term. I haven't used it before. I will now. I made it up. Did you know that? If you couldn't hear Ted, he said that he partnered up with a guy and they started doing coding dojos for fresh outs to teach them stuff that they didn't learn in school. Good, thank you, Ted. What else?
We were talking about the difference that community of practice is not exclusive, or shouldn't be exclusive to a particular role or something like that.
Should not be exclusive, so it should be inclusive. Right?
Anybody that's interested about how to be a better tester or learning more about Agile should be invited, not just the Scrum Master.
Yeah, good. Jared?
We talked about how you could set it up as a monthly meeting or something like that, but you need to be sure that people's level of passion drives their level of involvement, because you don't want to force them to go to yet another meeting.
Yeah. So people's passion should drive their involvement. Good. Yes, thank you, Jared. One more? Most of the time, the managers were not interested in the community of practice.
And then there was a vote from the other manager, and the man said, I want my 30 hours of work
Right. So back to somebody's interested in this, but the other people want that 30 hours of work that Kelly was talking about. Yeah. Okay. Did you want to say something, Will?
Sure. Let's screw this up several times.
That's what I heard about you, yeah.
I believe that most of it does fall to it's leadership's fault.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have the leadership at the top who understands the needs of the community practice, and recent change I just made, I had everybody, as you mentioned earlier, the POs and the Scrum Masters rolling up to a leader.
Yeah.
We're breaking that. We're going back to
Would you take a message, please?
that was for me. Making sure that your leaders have to be accountable to the team first.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily saying
Leaders being accountable to the team first, yeah. Thank you, Will. Did somebody else have something they were wanting to say? Okay. So here's the thing for me. I won't pretend that I don't think I'm a smart guy, but I also think that I'm particularly good at seeing the common sense stuff, seeing the stuff that works, and putting it together. And that's really all I've done here is to say, you know what, just the stuff you guys were talking about makes sense to me. Let's make it an organizational structure of some sort. So let's have a community of practice of Scrum Masters, in which it's not just a scrum of scrums where they come together once in a while, whether it's every day or every week, to say, here's what's going on in our projects, but to talk about being Scrum Masters, to talk about what's the learning going on in the Scrum Master community, what's evolving in the Agile community, how do we bring more as the guides and mentors and coaches of our teams, and the people in the organization who are expected to know a bunch about Agile and help the organization develop it. How about if we have groups of developers and testers and so forth, and as, wait a minute, who was it that said inclusive? Ted, was that you? No, who said inclusive? Oh, Mark. That they should be inclusive. If you want to learn more about testing, go to whatever it is that the testing community of practice does. If you want to know what the heck is UX, go to the UX community of practice. Don't just take their wireframes and their designs. Go learn what they do. Go learn about personas in depth, or about how they come up with what colors to use. Because the goal here is to separate the functional stuff. We're an organization. We have management things we have to do. We have administrative stuff we have to do. There's all of this overhead. Let's have somebody who loves that do that. And then let's have people who love this lead or guide or be the custodian for the community of practice. Somebody has to be responsible for what are our standards. How do we as an organization choose to do things? If we're writing Java, do we have particular patterns we want to use, particular ways of putting the code together? If we're doing database, do we have standards around stored procedures and what indexes we create? Whatever it is should come out of this organization, not somebody sitting up here, separate from the organization. And now we're also talking about what's happening across the organization. I don't think they have to be on the same project. No. This is across the organization. Now we're creating that expertise that we used to force into a technical manager or the senior architect or the cloud technology person. We're taking that, we're putting it in the hands of the people who do the work, just like we do on the Agile teams. We're creating this cross-cutting structure that eliminates the duality. Because now nobody gets to come to Elwood and say, Elwood, I need you to do something for me. Because Elwood's only manager is the same as the manager of the designer and the database developer and the UX designer and the testers and QA people. All have one manager. And now if somebody else comes along, that manager says, no, it's not the way we work. This is one of the dysfunctions I've seen over and over and over again that I'm trying to see if we can make go away.